Hey everybody, at Texas Stroking Airlines, this Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It is Wednesday night. It's just barely after 6, which is insane. The fact that I'm not at work right now and I'm at home. So a lot of people would probably come home, get supper, do something fun the rest of the evening. It's usually so late that I have to eat that this is just bizarre, and I wasn't even hungry, so I figured I'd come out here, make good use of my time, trying to get caught up, trying to clean up, trying to get some stuff organized, and most importantly, I've got time-sensitive videos I want to get out in an orderly fashion. So I've been working towards that goal. We're going to continue that here. This is expedited by a long way, but it's just because it doesn't really make sense to have a Black Friday tool haul release like in March or April, which is probably where it would go if we just kind of did things chronologically. So the KC Tool Black Friday sale, there's always something, even if you've got pretty much everything, there's always something that'll be added in that's like super ridiculously cheap. Even sometimes if you do have everything, there's something that's such a good deal you kind of get it as a backup or for another location or even as a gift type of a thing. And we've sort of done a little bit of everything like that in this one. So if you follow me, whether you're subscribed or you see the community section on YouTube, I always try to post like big stuff, time sensitive stuff like that. This definitely falls into that category. Same thing, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you might be, Facebook, all three at Lone Star Mopars. But there were some really good deals, especially if you didn't have any of this stuff. You probably made out like a gangbusters on this one. The other reason that this is important, and I want to highlight this, you might have missed Black Friday, maybe you cashed in on it, or Cyber Monday. There's a holdover item which I was shocked by. We'll talk about that later. This is still relevant to you. When you see this release, which is one of the reasons I'm expediting it, the seasonal is still available. What that is, coffee mug, hat, new t-shirt, and the old t-shirt. If you didn't know, there's now a new design. I think it came out earlier this year. Similarly, much requested hoodie and beanie. The hoodie has a cool KC2 logo on the back in addition to front left chest, and of course the beanie. They're not priced bad to begin with, but on the seasonal sale, stuff is really cheap. Let's see if I can zoom in and see this through the camera or not. Yeah, the hoodie you can pick up for 40 bucks. Again, it's really soft. I think most people would like it. The hat with mesh, you're going to be looking at $23.99. The outline shirt, that's going to be $12.99. I think that's the new one. The beanie, you're going to be looking at $12.99. The keychain, which I actually don't have, that $11.99. The mug, which I also don't have, $10.99. 2X and 3X will be a little extra, but most important thing right there, valid through December 31st. So let's say that you go in and you're buying yourself wrench, twin grips, maybe a Cutex, whatever, and you're sitting there like 60 bucks. You're going to probably pay, 7.5 to 15-ish in freight, depending on, shipping options and all that stuff. Get a hat. You get free shipping. I don't tell you that. I don't make anything off of that. There's no kickbacks for me. I tell you that because that's honest to gosh what I would do if I was in that position. So that is valid again until December 31st. Somewhere in this box, okay, when you spend over $100, this is your next incentive point. You get the German Tool sticker pack. It is very easy to spend over $100 and clip 75, but if you're, shopping for gifts or on a budget, mainly shoot for the free shipping deal. And then, of course, if you exceed that, then you think, hey, I'm sitting at $91. Is it worth it for me to go ahead and bring in something I want or get a backup or some extra bits? Push over that threshold, get the stickers. I've got so many of those sticker packs, it's not really an incentive anymore, but it's still cool. So, the freight is still something I strive for. Every single order, though, from KC Tool, whether it's, you spend $2 or $2,000, bit of thanks. Currently, what they're sending out is the beloved Felo No. 2 Phillips. So, it works for me. We've got a ton of those as well. We're going to go ahead and jump into this. I do hope you were able to cash in on this stuff. And I grabbed the wrong ticket, but here's the right one. So, crisis averted. Now, these ones that are kind of repeat offenders, I've been having some really long, even by my standards, really long videos, and I'm going to try. I never intend to do that. It just kind of happens. And I'm one of those people, I would rather err on the side of giving you more information than you want and not enough information and having questions and all kinds of stuff that I may or may not get to in a timely manner. So that's sort of my thought process on things, but it's never an intention to have like a 40-50 minute, unless it's just we brought in a ton of stuff, you know, we might spend 2-3 minutes an item and it just collectively adds up and accrues to that. But without further ado, let's jump in. The Knipex item that we had on the Black Friday sale, 1372-8. If you take a gander down there, if you can read it, forged wire strippers, and the MC or multi-component, that tells you what kind of a grip we're going to have. If you're thinking like, hey, I know what the forged wire strippers are, you've brought these in, haven't you? And the answer is yes. Was that this year? I think it was this year. This is a relatively new deal because they are forged, and this one's kind of special. Typically, like with, this is super convenient because I was crimping some stuff the other night with my now better than left hand, right hand. Typically with anything Knipex, you know, where we would have, you know, AWG stuff up here, it's this metric stuff that, you know, doesn't really make sense to me, which is why it's cool that's color coded. And then down here, it's the same thing, right? You want to see, you know, 12, 14, 16, 18, and you get the metric equivalents. And, you know, if you're not brushed up on that stuff, it sucks. And you think, ah, well, you know, these would be really cool, but, you know, they're going to be metric, and that's kind of a pain for Grandpa to pick up on, or I know he's not going to do it. Well, your eyes do not deceive you. There's oil. What, do you see that? 632 and 832 down here. What's that about? It's not a clock. It's not a timestamp. That's to cut screws. And you're thinking, hey, you know, that's American. That's our thread pitch for screws. And if we come up here, you read stranded and you see 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and you're like, what? And then you see solid. That's not metric. There's no decimals, there's no commas, no crazy stuff. That's good old-fashioned American wire gauge, and that makes me appreciate them. You can see here we've got the release, so they take up a slightly smaller footprint. What is my deal with releases lately, man? I'm telling you. There's one video coming up where we lost about 20 minutes on a release. And I've been trying to break that item in. I've had it for a really long time now. It's from the 5,000 subscriber special. That's all I'm going to say right now. It's still not broken in. But this one right here, we've got it. I just was playing with my previous pair, and they are like super broken in compared to this one. So anyway, the one complaint I would have on this, I think just like the Knipex Linesman's plier, this would have been an awesome time to do the crosshatch teeth. I'm sure they've got good reason for it. It's probably for bending sheet metal if I had to guess. But I love crosshatch. It grips so, so good. Wait, I'm an idiot. They are crosshatched. Okay. So yes, I was thinking, you know, like I was looking at it and I was like, from this angle, it looks like just standard teeth, right? And then it looked a little busier and I thought, man, that's kind of weird. Is that just buildup? And nope. So that is a huge selling point. I thought I remembered that, and then I wasn't seeing it here. I thought, you know, I think there's like 2 versions of this, but yeah. So yeah, nothing really negative here, especially when you consider that these were had for 38 bucks. Okay. Knipex is actually pretty reasonable on probably 90% of their lineup. They're like super reasonable. 38, you're kind of like in Klein territory. You know, you might spend a little bit more, a little bit less here and there, kind of pick and choose your item. But $38 for these is a steal. For example, typical MSRP is going to be 60 bucks. And again, this is the multi-component ones, but getting them for 38 is awesome. And if you're thinking like, okay, well, hey, you had a pair, what are you going to do with them? Well, this second pair is not like a backup deal. I'm not like super concerned if these go down, although that would suck and it would be handy and it will serve that purpose if it comes to it. But I'm going to take this pair to work. So I've liked them. I haven't used them here in the next couple of months. These will see absurdly heavy usage with what I'm doing here at home. And that'll really give me a good feel for them. But I have used them quite a bit in the time since I picked them up, and I'm super happy with them, and that's why I bought a second pair. So like I said, you'll see things like that, and you probably do the same thing. If you had these, you bought them when they were brand new, and you got a coworker that's always like ragging on you, like, "No, I wish I had a pair of those." Well, 38 bucks, you know, that's a good time to jump on them. So we'll leave those out of the box for now, give you some eye candy. Let me get this thing out of here. This lasted like two tries, by the way. I was out here, I still can't really do much until this quits being an issue on this end, but I was like, man, what is the deal here? I can't get this thing to, you know, work with the USB. And if you come into this side, you see the problem, right? Okay, you got red, you got white. It's going to be like your feed wires for the battery compartment. And then this little standard little gem right here. Great solder job there, folks. So that would explain why it wouldn't work, and it just doesn't seat in this plastic housing. Now this base, oh, that was fun to get out. It looks like there should be screws that hold it in place, but no, not the case. There's just a felt foot pad on this side, and I used all 4 of the Stavilla picks that you usually see up here in the front edge, if you're ever curious what those were. Finally had a couple people notice the Lancer badge, so that was cool. I've been waiting for someone to spot that. Now you'll see it and you'll never unsee it if you didn't. But I would have assumed I would, you know, pop these little legs out, probably never get them to seat back in, but there would be screws there. There were not. This sucker was like press fit, and it was very fun to disassemble. But I've diagnosed the issue, so we shall see. It should work with batteries. It's just, I kind of liked using the USB, but that's clearly a very, very poor design. So coming in next, let's just stick with the repeat offender gang. This is from Felo. Standard price point would be $25.42. If you snagged one of these, you saved over 50%, which is insane. Any time, if there's a tool of the day, if there's a sale or a clearance or anything, and you see 50% plus savings, buy it. Because if you don't, someone else will, and the stock will dwindle, and then when you go back and realize, like, hey, I think I will pick that up, it'll be gone. I'm just telling you right now from experience. But do you recognize that little buddy of mine? It is the Felo Ergonic K handle. This is sort of, we had a run on some really cool, really innovative drivers. And if you're thinking like, man, that's a really good buy, $11.99, let's call it $12. You double it, that's $24. You saved $1.42 by buying 2 on sale. And if you're thinking, if I was doing this, I would have gotten 2. That's what I did. So, what's happening here? Well, this is sort of a twofold deal, and I just had this thing a second ago. Oh, there it is. All right. So, this is my original right here. I loved this thing. It was awesome, and shortly after my video, it disappeared from the website. Not only the standalone driver, which was always pretty reasonable, like they had the cool Felo strong boxes, you know, it's like an L box type of a deal. Some come with certain bits, some come with other bits, some come with holsters, all kinds of different options, but it all just went away, and that was really sad. It was bad timing, you know, nothing you want to see happen. But apparently what had happened is some people had gotten these, I assume, particularly, you know, like overseas where they probably initially released, and with usage, you know, in daily professional settings, there was something that went wrong. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was simple. I don't know if it was, you know, catastrophic failure, but something was amiss, and Felo just recalled everything, took them all back, and apparently fixed it. So these two should not have the issues. This one should have the issue. I've never had the issue. This was used a ton. And the thing I found I liked best to pair it with is like those 89mm bits. It gives you like a really good length. Certain situations you want like the close standard stuff, but typically I kind of like a little bit of a shaft with it. It is still kind of heavy and not balanced well, but it's so good. This, I believe, if I'm thinking correctly, the manufacturer would be Handy Twins. I don't know if they did the handle or if it comes back with the mechanism to Felo to do the handle, but it's the Ergonics handle that you should know and love at this point in time. And then this, it is, yes, I believe made in Taiwan, but if you did not know, you basically have 90 degrees, 45 degrees, straight up, and then 45, 90, or if you want to be super math particular, 135 and 180. Okay, horizon to horizon, sunset to sunrise. This is a really nice driver. And then of course on top of that, it's ratcheting, and of course in the middle, if you can see right there, you don't ratchet at all. Standard driver. And then here we would come in and we would ratchet. Similarly, if we take a look at the business end, we have the bit selector where you can just simply quick release everything. So As mentioned, I used it. I was aware of the issue. Again, not knowing what it was, just that there is an issue that prompted a recall. I've not had anything go wrong. I will also confess that not too long after, the silent gear stuff started to become available for me from Gador, so I sort of was rolling that route because it's still weird not hearing anything when you use a driver. So yeah, I'm going to try. I'll have to like stamp or mark these so I can keep them separate and everything. Like, okay, hey, you had that one and you say you love it, but why two? Well, number one, it was stupid cheap, like stupid cheap. This would be an awesome gift to give people if like you have employees or coworkers, or you got a manager, a floor manager, a shift manager, a foreman, quality control guy, and you're retiring or trying to get on their good graces or something. Like, awesome gift. You're only out $12. My logic though, I did want a second one. I don't know if I'll take it to work or keep it in the truck. I'm still kind of on the fence with that. And then the second one that we just bought, I think I'm going to give that to my nephew. So I'm sort of like trying to fight with my sister here. She doesn't want him to have a toolbox. She says it takes up too much space. And I was going to get, like, when the U.S. General carts were $4.99, I was like, that's the ticket. That's awesome. I would have thought that was like the coolest thing ever when I was his age. And she said, no, there's no space. And she said nothing. And it's like, you got to have tools, And I mean, her stuff sucks. Anything that she has that's good is something I've given to her. And she complains about not having anywhere to put it, but whatever. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do there. I might outfit it with bits. Again, I'm still kind of on the fence of what I want to do and how I want to construct it. But that's essentially what's in the bag. You've probably seen me go on and on about this when it was brand new. So, again, $12 a piece, you can't beat that. That's like Harbor Freight prices. I want to say it was Chris Cass. He's like the Japanese tool expert guy, resident Japanese tool expert on YouTube. I want to say he's who told me Handy Twins. I could be butchering that, but it's a well-known outfit in Taiwan that does a lot of private labeling stuff. And like I said, I have loved this thing. If I didn't, I wouldn't have bought those, even though they were cheap. If I hate something, it doesn't matter the price point. It ain't coming back. But those, they pass the test. This right here is kind of an awkward item because I've got it. It's sitting in the floor, and I haven't done a video on it. And I guess this one gets to get the limelight first because I'm not going to pass it over. This thing would typically retail for $119.53. It's from Hazet, and you're thinking like, oh yeah, well that could be anything from something impressive like a ratchet all the way down to some stupid screwdriver this guy would bring in that would cost $120 from Hazet, because their stuff is crazily expensive, like disproportionately so, and I can't explain it still. After multiple years of buying German tools, I still couldn't tell you why they're so much higher than everyone else. But what I can tell you is this thing was not that price point for Black Friday. We're talking basically going from $120 to $70, almost $50 off. And the part number 8816 HPS, some of you like myself are going to know exactly what that is. Let's just lower it in somewhat dramatically. I'm super, super excited about this. It is the Hazet's 8816 hyper fine 340 Newton meter ratchet. So basically we've had the 8816. And if you're thinking like, yeah, you've opened that. What's the deal? You don't have that sitting on the floor. It's in your box, buddy. No, this one really is on the floor waiting to be opened up because the 8816 serves me well. The 916, potentially my favorite ratchet ever. But what the S in the part number means is quick release. This is relatively new stuff, right? Especially in the 3/8 line. And so this is all the glory of the 916 HP, but then of course we have the 916 HPS, which includes the quick release. So 3/8 finally came out. The 916 was like your gateway drug, which got me hooked, and the 8816 or 3/8 drive version became available. It's again set up with the 3/8 drive and the quick release mechanism. I don't think I'm going to go into a ton of detail here because I'll probably save that, but I'm not going to keep it in the box. I'm not going to be that cruel to you, because this thing is awesome. So this is truly my first experience with this ratchet, given the fact that it has the quick release. All right. So 8816, I've used it a lot. The 8816 HPS, no, I have not. So The one thing, and this is like, I feel like that's a higher luster than I'm remembering, but it could be because I've used mine so much. There's the handle. It's classic Hazet blue, teal, whatever you want to call it. You've got the head here. It's the HP, their selector switch. Unlike some others recently, it's smooth and functional. 90 tooth design. If you can do math, that would of course mean you've got a 4-degree return. And right here, the big deal, let's find the ball detent for you. And we'll get it oriented at the top. And then of course, we've also got the extractor there. Boom, that is your quick release. So this is very easy to press, very easy to articulate. Got a blister on this end. That's what that is. It's not like chalk or something. I was shelving a ton of plastic sheet yesterday, and my alphas are filthy at work. So I put on, I can't tell you how many people comment on those gloves like they look terrible right now. They've looked terrible for a long time, but from when they were brand new and it was like truck drivers, you know, saying like, oh, where'd you get those? When I was driving the forklift, all the way up to just like suppliers or even customers coming in and buy stuff, and they're like, hey, you know, try these gloves out. And so one guy literally gave me the gloves that he sells. I think they're like Juggernaut brand. And since I was like, man, I don't want to get these dirty, meaning the new parts, not the gloves, I put those on and they slip on me like just a little bit. And so, yeah, that's I popped that one, but yeah, that's interesting. It's a fresh one from yesterday. The glaring thing though here is literally the glaring thing. It is the back of the head. It's kind of strange to go from the satin finish to the polished finish. I much prefer the satin personally. They kind of do that with their sockets. They do that with a lot of things. I don't know what the logic is exactly, but not a huge deal. And again, I do dole that out, I've noticed over time, but it seems brighter than like the 8816. I don't know if I'll grab that for bonus or not, but definitely when I get to the one that I first bought, we will do just that. Why was that one sitting in the floor for so long? Quite simply, I have the 8816 HP, and this one just adds a quick release, so it's not like a deal breaker. But yeah, $73.99. That is a steal and a half for a Hazet ratchet. Again, the HP line. If you're on the fence with these, I hope you bought this to experience it. If you did not, the good news is if you don't care about the quick release, or you're like, well, that's supposed to be that super tough, impressive, unbreakable ratchet, well, that weakens it having the quick release. You're right, and the 8816, which is the standard 3/8 version without the quick release, is currently on sale. So you have that in your back pocket if you want to give that a go. But the 916 HP, man, that is what sold me on these things. So I've been relatively faithful ever since. Moving on from that, we have kind of a deal from NWS that I didn't have to get, but did. I sort of couldn't pass it up the more I thought about it. It was in stock, and it's like, I think we got to do it. You know, we just need to pull the trigger and make it happen. So it's a special limited edition set. There's no like festive holiday packaging like Knipex is doing with the mini Cobra and the cable knife or anything. But it is limited edition if you're a collector. If you're an NWS fan, if this is just something that you want to try out because you've always seen me talk about sci-fi grips and how they're comfortable, or whatever your logic is, these suckers are typically retailing for $73.70. Black Friday sale, $30.99. That's right, $30.99. That's $31. That's $15.50 for a pair of pliers. That's like what you would go in and get like a disappointing pair of crud from like Lowe's or Home Depot. And these are NWS, and on top of that, this is the packaging. I guess we should take a quick look at that. Again, nothing crazy, but it is boxed. That's about all we need to see there, because I want to get these out and kind of highlight them for you. Come on. Okay, so first and foremost, we get the lanyard. Yes, that lanyard. The lanyard that I spent a ton of time covering because it was so cool. It doesn't just have the NWS logo right there. It's got their entire plier lineup. Oh yeah, that's right. If you're thinking like, he's not lying, those really are pliers. How cool is that? Whatever you need to do with this, if you have to wear credentials at work, if you have to have like some pass or a key card, if you go to conventions, you could dress up as like a steampunk, and if you have to have a badge to get in, you can use this, right? So whatever you're going to do, it works. I think there was also the tether attachment, I believe is what that is, but you can take that off and just use the clip, whatever you need to do to make it happen. So I've covered this before in detail. I think I'm going to leave it as is because I'm not 100% sure yet, but there's a chance I might give this to my nephew. So my thoughts are, apologies here, I'll pan back up. My big thing, I love needle nose pliers. I feel like that's a great starter point, and it's super, super useful. There's many things that standard slip joint pliers or starter set pliers can't do because of the nose design, where a needle nose would be preferential. You also have the grab ability here. You can cut wire with them if need be. It's just a nice starter set. These are the 140 69 205, right? So we kind of got like the darker finish on them. Most important thing though, the sci-fi grips, these are comfortable. They're super comfortable. Only real downside to NWS pliers, they're typically going to be significantly lower priced than competitors. Not always, but most of the time as a general rule of thumb. The biggest downside is when you get the cool sci-fi grips, very few plier holders or organizers actually accommodate these handles. I just want to tell you that in advance, but again, that's not really your primary concern. It's the quality of the tool. This right here, if you're thinking like, oh, side cutters, and you're like, wait, no, it's not just any side cutter. This is the Fantastico. This is their like big, hybrid lever action joint that you can cut crud tons of thick stuff with, and you're 100% correct. So while like, thinking of things my nephew would do, like if he was doing a stereo or something, who knows, maybe trying to wire in lights with his buddies. I'm not sure what the kids would be doing, but these will work as side cutters. Similarly, if he's doing crazy stuff and needs to cut something thicker, this will get the job done too. The Fantastico is very reasonably priced in, say, comparison to like the Knipex, any of the specialty hybrid cutters. I can't think of the name, escapes me right now, but they're super expensive, like 80 bucks a pair. These are usually, if you can get them on sale, around 30-ish, which seems like a steal against some of the competitors, but considering you get these two for $30 total, it's another no-brainer. So that brings us, again, I'm trying to kind of breeze through this because truth be told, you've seen me like bring all this stuff in or something really similar to it. This next one, no, it has not had anything similar to it brought in. I don't have any single component of it. It's not a deal where I, bought this and then got the set type of a thing. No. This is like totally new. And I want to have a little bit of time here to spend dedicated to it. So this thing is getting close to the 30-minute mark. That's when it will time me out. I'm going to check these texts real quick. And then I'm going to bust out our final item. All right, so got the text checked. The wind has kicked up another notch outside. That's kind of sad news. I never had the guy. I did work program in high school, which basically means my junior year I was out lunchtime. My senior year I was out at 10 something. Did 0 houring, like 6 a.m. deal. That's how that worked out. But did not have the guy. But the dude that taught auto shop actually passed away. So sad news there. Always seemed really nice. He did drive a Chevy, so held that against him. But seemed like a pretty cool dude. Everyone seemed to like him. So that was kind of sad to see. That said, though, I'm sure someone like him would be thrilled to see something like this. And this is from Wera, so I know a lot of you will be intrigued by that. I'm trying to slide the sleeve off. I promise I haven't had these opened yet. Oh, man. Knipex is right there. But for some reason, when there's these sleeves, I just like to have them intact. I don't know why. They go in the trash can, and we're going to just tear it because it saves time. So, what is it, you ask yourself? Well, this is Wera's part number 020110. That probably doesn't mean anything to a lot of you. Again, I'll have these linked down below. Make nothing off that. It's just for your convenience. Be aware the price points are not going to be anywhere near what they were for Black Friday. Black Friday price on this is $121.99. A lot of you are probably thinking like, oh, you finally got one of their, like cool little ratchets that you've been needing to try out. Maybe. I'm going to say, though, with the caveat that this can't be had for $121.99, which was over 50% off. That was a big selling point here, as I mentioned earlier in the video. It's still 35% off. So if you see this and you're like, oh, I can't believe I missed that, I need to pull the trigger on it, you're not going to get 50+% off, but you can get 35% off, which is a pretty solid buy. That would bring your price to $168. This is regularly $259. And now you're like, oh, you got a socket set and the ratchet. You did something crazy here. Wera stuff, huh? Well, this is something that I was aware of. I kind of wanted to try, but it wasn't really pressing, and it was just something that, well, let's just drop it down. All right, how about that? So, let me get my brand new friend out of the way here. Get the NWS spread a little wide. There we go. This is the Wera Joker. Well, now Joker is used interchangeably a lot across their wrench line, right? So you got the ratcheting Jokers, you got, you know, the Joker with the faceplate, no faceplate, standard combination, open end, all that stuff. This is still in the Joker line of wrenches. This, if it looks like an adjustable like a crescent wrench, kind of on the right track, but it's totally different than that. Similar but different, that type of a thing, right? That never makes any sense to you. So the thing with Wera, if you're into like the packaging, you know, like Apple and Samsung and, you know, expensive value, whatever, they kind of take the cake in terms of like what the German tool companies do. Now, I always egg on them because we never seem to get like the Tool Rebel stickers here. We got one here. It seems to be more grayscale. I thought it was more of a white badge. I kind of like this aesthetic better, so no complaints on my end. We've got the Velcro, and if you just toss that stuff, don't. If you ever do their Wera to Go system, it seems gimmicky, it seems weird, but it works. Like there's multiple people that actually do use that will attest to that. I don't use it, but I keep it in case I ever decide to. A little information. There's our sticker back in there, and let's see what this says actually. So this will be a good start point for us. So the 6004, I thought was a 4-piece set. It's showing 3 here. That'll be interesting to evaluate because now I'm questioning everything I thought I knew. We're going to read the second line, it looks like. Automatically and continuously self-setting. So you can kind of see the wrench, you can see the arrow, you can see the fastener, key stock, whatever it is. Is that all there is? No, here we go. So gentle to the screw. Or if we phrase that, you know, like easy on the edges, won't round the edges type of a thing, right? Doesn't abuse the fastener. However you want to word that differently. And then ratchet mechanism for fast work. And you're thinking like, okay, wait, I'm starting to kind of see this in my head. You're saying to yourself, like, this is interesting. This is a unique concept. And then there's a low pivot angle. They're saying that there's a 30-degree return. And the last page here, we've got a hanging hook. So useful for hanging, yes. I guess they needed one more page and decided to do that. I don't know what the logic was there, but hey, not going to question it, just going to roll with it at this point in time. This is the pouch. If you use these all the time, if you want to use them, if you want a 4-piece set of crescent wrenches that you need in a wrench roll type of a thing, this is it. Not sure I've ever seen crescent wrenches in a wrench roll, so there's that. I'm sure some people do it. The coolest thing they do, if you're heavily invested in the Wera ecosystem and you have their to-go, like the little canvas polyester type tote, if you had this in there, they're all going to obviously have, you know, the Wera, you know, Easter egg screwdriver handle logo, the Wera font in white. They do this on like every little case, right? So if we had ratcheting Jokers, it would be a picture of a ratcheting wrench. If we had open end, it would be that. If you had VDE set, it would be a VDE color scheme. They do that not just to kind of like flex on people, but like if you reach into the black abyss of your tool bag and you see this, and you're like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. Or you say, oh no, off to the side, here's my screwdriver. So there is a lot of practicality to do that. It might not convey that way to you if you're just going to pull these out and throw them in your toolbox, or if you're just going to open them up and set them in a drawer type of a thing. This is more so quite literally for the person that uses their Wera to Go system. So there's not a lot of videos on that. German Tool Reviews has one. It's you think he followed it up where he has his dog trying to tear it apart to prove that it's terrible. If I piqued your interest, be sure to check his channel out. There's some content on there I'm sure you will enjoy. With that said, let's get to the business here, right? Super strong Velcro. I know Velcro, you either have good or bad experiences with it. There's good quality Velcro, and then there's like junk Velcro. This is not the junk Velcro. I'll just put it that way. It is a 4-piece set. Hallelujah. I got kind of worried when I showed 3 there. But this is what it would look like. This is the footprint it would take up if you were to put this like in your box. Obviously, keep in mind you can fold that Velcro edge over, reduce the footprint just a little bit. I've kept a few things in these. I always worried about tearing this away, and then that would kind of render this useless, you know. But it is what it is. So we're going to go ahead and grab these. We might have to make a standalone on these. I'm not 100% sure. But, okay. So the way this is going to work, that's a miss. That's okay. Well, yeah, it is kind of a miss. I could see. Let me get to what I'm disappointed with right away. So first and foremost, you have 4 of these things because they don't have much range to them. Okay, like if you're used to a crescent wrench, especially like anything recent or in modern times, kind of a higher end one like Irega in Spain, like your channel lock wide ass wrenches, that's literally what they call them. It's because they have a huge range. Like this small of a profile, you could fit anything, you know, from the tiniest fasteners up to like probably like a, I don't know, 5/8 bolt at least, maybe even 3/4. And with this, it's just you go from here to here. And you're thinking like, well, that's not very efficient. Well, in this case, we're bailed out because we have the full set, okay? So we have the sizes covered. It's just a situation where that is one drawback. Now, right here, they did metric as your prominent font, so you've got 10 to 7. So closed position, this will fit 7mm fasteners. Open position, it fits 10. That's not a huge range for my SAE people like myself. We're going 1/4 to 3/8. So you got 1/4, you got 5/16, and you got 3/8, and that's it. This is one of the reasons I never brought these in. There's like one application at work where I could have seen myself actually using this where it would be a benefit to me, okay? With Wera, they do some really crazy out there things. The turbo comes to mind, right? For the average person, the turbo is just kind of like a cool thing to have in your toolbox, a conversation starter. Maybe once in a blue moon you get to use it as they intended and you're like, oh, this thing's really, you know, I can see why they did it. But the vast majority of the time, it's just kind of there, and you would be better off with a different tool for the job. There is a subsect of people where the turbo, if they knew about it, would be the be-all and end-all of screw driving, right? People that are installing stuff down in a panel, terminal block screws that have tons of thread on them. Things along those lines, just repetitive over and over and over again type of tasks. That's where the turbo is like, geez, these people are brilliant. You know, with these, and thinking of myself, I'll be straight up honest, here at the house, you know, and in my shop, messing around with old cars, lawnmowers, whatever crud I have to fix for people, I can use them. I can find instances where they would be sort of advantageous, but I would just assume do things the way I've always done them, right? At work, there was like one thing that I could think of, because I was trying to like make justifications of, do I buy it or do I not buy it? Do we showcase this or do we not showcase this? Contrary to popular belief, I don't just buy things to bring in and like talk about them. That's why my videos are long. I tell you why I bought it. Now, granted, there's a lot of times, like with the recent Heiko video, I'm pretty confident those acetate handled screwdrivers are not going to be anywhere near my personal preference. They could turn out to be the best tips ever. That could change things. But in terms of looking at them, super awesome. In terms of using them, very, very confident I've got something I would like better, right? But I'm invested in that. I want to showcase it so you can see it. I want to compare and contrast it. I want to test it out against other brands. This is a deal. I could easily have done that, but then that's like the extent of the purchase, right? I would have brought these in and I make a video on them. Maybe we do a demo video on them, and that's it. The odds of me ever reaching for them for anything that I would do here is like slim to none. It would be a deal like, oh, hey, I haven't used those in a while. Let me bust one out type of a thing, which, you know, you do that type of stuff sometimes. You're not like in a time crunch. At work, it's the same way. It's like, You could use them, but it's not really going to be a benefit to you. The one thing that I thought of, and it was by no means enough of a reason for me to justify the purchase of these, because they're not cheap, they're expensive. Even at the Black Friday ridiculously high percentage off of $121.99, that's like $30 a wrench, which is kind of crazy, right? At least in my opinion, for, you know, what this is. But when I get motors in, it's a situation where it's kind of like, well, these two on the backside, you know, it's usually, they should come in vertically and they don't. I hash this out with engineers and, you know, reps and, you know, managers and everyone, and it never changes except at one plant where they do sometimes ship them vertically, but they're typically shipped horizontal, which is insane, but I don't have time to go off on that tangent. And what I'm getting at is when they come in, 90% of the time, okay, there's going to be bosses on the motor, and you're going to have a little steel bracket kick out, and it's going to have lag screws into the pallet. I can get to these two with anything. If I want to use an impact socket on the world's slowest returning ratchet, I can do that fine. If I want to drag 50 foot of air hose and connect to 100 foot of air hose and shoot them off, I can do that. If I want to use battery power tools, I can do that. If I want to use hand tools, we can do it. If I want to sit there with a regular open end wrench, fine. There's accessibility. Everything is golden on this side of the pallet. Now, when we get to the other side of the pallet, that's not the case. I've got a junction box, and the junction box includes all accessibility. I still don't know. I've been invited several times to the factory, and, you know, like, to yell at people or to tell people, like, why do you do this? Can you do it this way, type of thing? And I think the people that actually do the job would be receptive to that and fix it, unlike the middlemen that you constantly have to go through that say they're going to change things and don't. Anyway, I've been having a lot of issues with those people lately, and it doesn't just relate to this stuff. So, on this side with the junction box, I can't come in. You know, I can't use my big fat impact socket on a ratchet. I can't switch to a flex head. I can't switch to a swivel head. I can't, you know, run 19 extensions with double universal joints. It doesn't happen. The weird flexy things that I've bought, sometimes they take the lag screw out, sometimes they don't. In impact with a straight, you know, like the little magnetic nut setters, you can sometimes get one screw, but you're typically not going to get the other type of a deal, right? Something like this from VHOP. So what I wound up doing, this is where, like, what I basically would have to do, especially at the beginning, when that lag screw is in there, like, it's driven down into the pallet half of the time, which is part of the problem, and that'll also eliminate your ability to use a socket when the fastener is sunk. They don't countersink the wood, okay? It's just the guy, whatever he's using to drive this in, just, you know, and then holds the trigger an extra 4 seconds, right? Like, here's contact, here's tight, here's we're piercing the wood, here's we're splintering it, and then 4 seconds past that, okay? And that's what I'm then left with to deal. So for the times that the screw head is above the wood, or, you know, enough of the screw head is there for me to grab onto, I oftentimes have to come in with an open end wrench, and literally the open end, you know, if I do the box end, we've got problems. I have to use the open end so I can get to it, and then I just have to turn it. And then you've got 6 sides, and you have to come all the way back, but you can't go here, so you have to come back and you have to wiggle it a little bit more. It gets really old really fast, and this is where I thought these would work. The problem, I'm not gonna lie, is the size range. And the size range, I would have bought one of them. I would have bought one of these adjustable wrenches, and I would have thought, okay, let's try them out. Maybe I'll love them. Maybe I'm being too hard on them. This one goes 7 to 10. This one is 10 to 13. That's 7/16 to half, okay? This goes from 13 to 16, or half to 5/8. Then, right up here, the Big Daddy, we go from 16 to 19, or 5/8 to 3/4. So, essentially, you're going from 7 millimeter all the way up to 19, kind of like a typical wrench set, I would say. For the SAE crowd, again, you're going to be going from 1/4 to 3/4. The problem I have is the fasteners aren't consistent from plant to plant. Okay, so it's typically 1/2 and 9/16. And this was a situation where this would be really good because I could then also downsize to 7/16, which is the other common size. This, I had 2/3 of what I needed. This is the one that I nearly bought. And it was just a deal where the price point was always high. I always told myself, if like this is ever tool of the day, if this was tool of the day, no. If the tiny guy's tool of the day, no. If this is tool of the day, gonna depend if I wanted something else, and you know, that would get me free freight type of a deal. But this one, if it ever became tool of the day, I was probably gonna bring it in. I would take it to work, I would try it out, we'd have our video here, I'd eventually update you. I told myself though, if there was ever like a huge sale on them, I would bring them in, and that's what finally lined up with Black Friday. I might use these and love them, but as it stands, that's why I didn't buy them. It was just, if we could like combine these two, it would have been like, oh yeah, you know, that's a sweet setup. But with it being 2 wrenches for like the one size gap I wish I had, I always sort of kind of had to hard pass. But with this, if it was a 1/2 inch lag screw, little 5/16, you know, shot in through the pallet, and I could actually grab onto it, where this would come in handy, right, is I would kind of, I guess, open it up, I'd grab the fastener, and I'd start pulling. And then it should be a deal where when I back off the fastener, it would sort of like open up, and then I would just reset, and it would save me a little bit of time. And I will tell you, it is a pain to come in and use an open end wrench to break a lag screw free. And then once it's free, you know, do you want to sit there and like tear your hand up while you try to spin it the rest of the way? Or do you want to keep doing this? I don't own any. We actually do have some, but they're not anywhere near the back, and they have purposes where they are. But a typical like offset, you come in and, you know, depending on the size of the motor and the size of the junction box, if you have the box end there and you're able to get to it, like here's the junction box, here's the box end, it kicks the wrench up, and you can't do anything because now you're hitting a cast iron piece, right? So that's all I really know to do with these that could be practically purposeful for me. If you're thinking like, well, hey, you know, you seem really ticked off about having to do those 2 lag screws on the junction box side, why don't you just try them out? Well, my solution that was almost the, like, it would be less than this set even on sale, but you know, like pretty close to the price of one of these full price. That's why I brought in that long neck ratchet from Harbor Freight, the Hercules one. And it had to be long neck for that very reason. I could not use the stubby guy, the regular size one, to do what I need to do. So it's a very, very unique application, but I have to do it a whole lot to the point that it's like, I'm going to make this easier on myself and get it done way faster. And the time that it takes me now, like I've mastered the art of using my new setup so fast. Like it used to be like an all-day deal, you know, if I get like a big shipment in, and now it's like, vroom, I just zip through it. And I'm like, man, why didn't I do this years ago? But that's where I think I could use this. That said, not to totally knock these, they are kind of cool. I think there's certain trades, certain projects, if you will, where these would actually be pretty useful, just like the turbo, right? For the average person, it's cool, it's fun, it's like, look at this, it's so cool. But in terms of like practical application for you, the average person, I don't know about it. You know, it's like, can you get it on sale and play with it type of a deal? That's where I stand with these. And they were on sale, and I'm going to give them a go. I'm going to see. I might, like I said, I could wind up loving these things. I can get them in here, and like I do with a lot of things, when I just get it in and get it showcased, I put it through the ringers. Like, I go right to it. Apologies as I lose my voice here. Man, that's that water bottle's been out here about 2 months. I don't know if I did more good or more harm there, but like I said, like when I get something in and I've showcased it here, so I've kept it pristine or whatever, I go to using the thing. And so what I will do, even if it's weird, even if it's kind of awkward or not what I would typically do, I will make a conceited effort to actually use these and kind of see what we think of them. I might take this one to work, throw it in the tool bag, play around with it, see what happens, see what we think of it. But I do think, like I said, there will be people that this would be awesome. Sadly, so many of those people, just like with the turbo, probably don't know that the item exists. So if you're seeing this for the first time, if you've never kind of seen them demoed or something, and you're like, hey, you know, I've got a coworker that would, you know, like, he uses this stuff all the time. Well, tell him about it, you know, and then Wera will be like, yes, this is what we were looking for. That's, I don't know. It's just one of those deals. I'll just have to play with it, in all honesty, to kind of form. I don't want to trash these things completely. I'm just kind of telling you, I'm not trashing them per se. I'm just saying, like, I haven't bought these yet because I didn't know that it would be worth the expense for me. So, case in point, this right here, like, nearly maxed that thing out. So we're gonna come in and try here. So I want to kind of highlight this. What's the best way to do it? I don't have a Sharpie here. You gotta be kidding me. Turn around and grab the one that I know where it is. So let's just highlight this. I'm not going to play any tricks on you, and I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is a good demo or a bad demo. I just kind of freewheel all this stuff if you haven't figured it out. So right here, I've got that black line. Probably a bad idea, but we're going to zoom in. It's at the bottom, okay? So what would happen, pay attention to that, if this was a stud, like, let's say you've got a rain cap on a motor or something, you know, and you're going to tighten this thing down. So we go here, and we've made our turn, and then we've hit our obstruction, basically the tripod. Check that out. This is where these shine. This is why these would be cool and useful. If I was using... I have no idea what size this is, by the way, but if I was using, let's just say, a 3/4 inch wrench, open end or boxed end, whatever, this does what I would have to do. Like, okay, so let's, again, picture this not as what it is, but as a open end wrench, okay? I come here, and I've hit my obstruction, and what do I have to do? I have to pull the wrench off, which is sort of hard because it's self-setting, but you don't know that because it's a common wrench. And then I have to come back over here and hope that I've turned the wrench far enough to my obstruction that I can actually land on 2 of the 6 sides, right? And we do it again, and we repeat, and there's going to be many, many times where we didn't get it quite turned far enough, or we couldn't, and we have to switch to this side, and we have to turn it a little bit, and then come back off and go back over. That is a pain, especially with an open end, because with an open end, what's the number one thing that happens when you're either A, tightening something or trying to loosen something super tight? You go off the top, and this hand goes flying that direction. So we want to avoid that if at all possible. So how would we do that? We would come in with the box end. Okay, so now this is the box end of a wrench. Like I said, guess what? This is working great, and I'm like, wow, I didn't slip off and crush my knuckles this time. And then what happens? Instead of hitting an obstruction here where we've made 90 degrees of progress, I hit an obstruction here where we've made like 30 to 45 degrees of progress. And you know what that means? Even though it's safer for you, the end user, and your knuckles don't get smashed, it's going to take you 2 to 3 times as long to remove the fastener. So this is where these are truly awesome. It's a situation, again, if I get this black line right down here at the bottom, pay attention with me, we'll bring it down. I come in here, I hit my obstruction. So the black line is currently here at the bottom jaw. Now check this out. I'm going to hold this stationary. The coupler is stationary. Again, eyes on the black line. The wrench is now going to self-set back. That's as far as I can go. We have an obstruction up here. So now I come in, I've hit my obstruction. Again, black line remains stationary. The wrench self-sets. We are almost there. We're going to remain stationary with the coupler. Boom. We just crossed 1 revolution of the fastener, right? So these are actually really cool. They are pretty practical. It's just, for me, it's a super limited use. Like, that was the one thing I could think of where this tool would be a true advantage for me. Number 1, I can't get a socket in there, right? Number 2, if I could, I wouldn't be able to put a ratchet on it, so I would then be using a wrench on a socket, which probably wouldn't fit or would offset the box end type of a deal. 3, you certainly can't get the ratchet on. 4, I've just described what happens to you with either the open end wrench, where you're constantly, you know, obstruction, pull off, flip, come, tighten, you know, flip, come back. You know the drill. So box end kicks you up, you slip off, whatever. This would actually be really good there. The problem is I've gotten to a point where with the long neck, I'm able to kind of evade that for the most part. Now, there's certain times, you know, sometimes the guy shoots the lag screws in straight, sometimes they're at a bad angle, sometimes they're at a 45. It's all over the place. It's done by hand. It's manual labor. I don't know what I'm going to get one pallet to the next, right? So you could have 3 in a row that are perfect and super easy, and then the next one is a complete nightmare and it's sunk in at a terrible angle. These would come in handy there. Again, you could use these in tons of applications. It's just, if I have full access to a fastener, right? Like let's say that this is a flange, and then we've got, you know, a component bolting up to the bottom. I can come in, and yes, I could totally hold, you know, a 9/16 wrench here and put this on the bottom and do this. But if I could get a ratcheting wrench here, or if I could get a socket up from the bottom side, I'm going to go that route. It just wouldn't be, it's cool. I'll be like, yeah, check me out, you know, self-setting adjustable wrench. But at the same time, it wouldn't be as efficient as something that fits there. Now, in applications where it's wrench access only, where the socket is, you know, 3 times the height that you need from the wrench, that's where you have to step back and be like, hey, you know, this might work for me. So even though it seems like I'm complaining a ton about these, my main thing is I just, as cool as I thought they were, as much as I wanted to check them out, I have that one thing where it would actually be something I would reach for this over other items and it would benefit me. I don't want to like force myself to use things where I wouldn't. Again, case in point, typical situation, we would have, you know, the ratchet, and we would have the socket, and we would have the wrench over here, and I let the ratchet do the work, right? If for some reason I can't get those items in, then this would become a viable solution for me. So I am kind of having them here. I appreciate them a little bit more because I sort of get to play with them myself. We got to demo the self-set feature. At this point in time, typically, you know, like I bring this stuff in, I get videos out on it. If you knew of these and you bought them, you've been sitting on them for a really long time at this point. Is it something, and again, I assume a lot of you are like me, when you get the cool new tool, you're going to use it. Even if it's not necessarily the best thing for the job or something else you already had would work, you're going to put it through its paces, right? So for those of you that have these and have actually used them, did you find that like this is your go-to? What application are you finding that you're using this type of self-setting wrench the most? And then for everyone else, is this something that you brought in, you tried to use it, and you found that, hey, it works really well when I do this, but the rest of the time I want to stick with what I know? For those of you that brought this in and maybe didn't like put it through its paces, have you used it? Have you thought of applications where this would be super advantageous and beneficial to you, the end user? Like I said, it is something you could use all the time. It's just, if I can get a wrench on one side and a socket on the other, that's what I'm going to do. That's my preferred means, right? In the case of the lag screw, where you don't have a backing plate or anything, if I can get a ratchet and a socket on something, I'm going to use that. If I could use a ratcheting wrench and couldn't fit the socket and the ratchet in there, I would do the ratcheting wrench. This, again, kind of comes into that, well, you're down to using a, you know, combination wrench because you don't have clearance. You're super thin territory. And then, you know, like, is this going to be too fat? You have that issue. So, I don't know. This is something, again, I'll just kind of have to play with them and see. The good news is, at $120, even though it's like $30 a wrench, I think they're cool. That's probably the lowest price we will ever see on these. I have the complete set because that was an issue for me. The big thing was, you know, like, well, let's bring one in and try it out, right? Like with the screwdriver, if you're like, I don't know if I want to commit to PB Swiss, you know, they're like $40 a driver. They're ridiculous. I've never bought anything that expensive. You can buy just one of them. If you love it, go get yourself the set and be happy. If you hate it, be thinking, hey, I'm so glad I just brought in one and didn't shell out $150 for 4 screwdrivers, you know? So that's sort of where I stand on these, but I will say, having these in hand, they're pretty cool. I feel like this would be my go-to for what I would do at work. But the biggest deal, even if I had this and I loved it, and I'm like, man, I'm going to, bring the rest of the set, it's just the limited size. I get why you have to do that. If you go bigger, you probably wouldn't be able to reset down. Maybe there's ways to engineer it. Maybe it would, compromise the structural integrity. Maybe it would lead to failures. I'm sure they tested all this stuff or thought it out in development and engineering. But just like 7 to 10, and then 10 to 13, and 13 to 16, and 16 to 19, if even like one more size, I would be like, oh, yeah, this, I would have had this a long time ago if this was like 7/16, up to like 5/8. But you saw it in action. It does what it's supposed to do. And then, of course, you can flip it around and go the opposite direction as well. But I'm excited to try them. I'm excited we got them on what I feel was a great deal. And I'm going to give them a go. And I will try, even when it's something stupid, like I could be putting motor mounts on, right? And for the span of time that I can actually use that before we like bottom out or run out of clearance, I'll use it. I'll see what I think of it. Maybe I'll love them. Maybe I'll wind up hating them. I don't know. But it truly is. I'm glad Wera's out there. I'm glad they're doing these types of things because it's super innovative. And like I said, it's just like the Turbo. As cool as it is, as comically fun, and like it puts a smile on your face every time you use it, max this out. So this is a long video again, but this is kind of why. So as cool as it is, as neat as it is, it's just not super practical to use the Turbo. For most people, I kind of feel like that's the same thing we'll run into here. I'm going to use them. I'm going to give them a go. And every once in a while, I'm sure I'll come across new applications at work, even here at the house. I'll be like, man, that self-setting Joker was the ticket, and I'll be super glad I have them. As I do, if I come across those things, I'll be sure, kind of channel updates or random tool hauls that are maybe shorter. I'll be sure to throw that information in there. But main thing I'm curious about, I know a lot of you have had these. I know a lot of you might have just picked them up recently. Some of you probably got screwed and bought them like right before the Black Friday sale. I feel for you. That's typically what happens to me. So if you've had them and you've used them, how are you liking them? Where and what are you using them on? Do you feel that, they're super efficient and well designed, or you kind of feel like it's more of a gimmick type of a thing? Let me know, because like I said, there is a time and a place where these would be fantastic. Are there enough times and places in my life and my career where I thought, oh, that's a must buy? No, that's why I didn't bring them in immediately. If this was a deal kind of like the Cutix, where I'm like, I use the box cutter all the time. I'll go out, and the minute it's available at KC Tool, we're buying it. We're bringing it in. I don't care. If it sucks, but it shouldn't, and I'm going to be able to use it all the time. With this, I tried really hard, and that was the one thing where I thought, like, that would actually kind of be handy there. And given the price point now, if this was like $7, I would have brought it in a long time ago. But like I said, despite, we've done 60 plus of these tool hauls now, I try to do them as thriftily as I possibly can, right? So I still kind of keep that in mind, and I think that's budget is a big concern for everybody. Maybe a few very lucky, fortunate people, it's not a concern, but for the rest of us, it's a big deal. So that's sort of why, like I said, with this, I'm using it. With the Hazet ratchet, I'm using it. With the Felo, I'm going to use it, and I want to test it. This is not something like if I was super into like testing out all the wrenches or crescent and adjustable wrenches, this would have been brought in many moons ago. Since that's not really my, pressing interest at the time, it's just kind of like, what would I use this for? When would this benefit me? And then when I think of things, it's like, is it justified to bring it in at that price point? And the answer was no. So, but like I said, the cool thing, having it in hand, kind of appreciate them a little bit more. So we shall see. Like I said, won't pass final judgment until we've used them, gotten a good feel for how the tool performs. Because like I said, I very well may wind up loving them. Battery's about to die. We're almost out of time. Again, there's a look at the jaws again. 7 to 10, 10 to 13, 13 to 16, 16 to 19, quarter through 3/4 for SAE people. This was our Black Friday Cyber Monday haul. I do have one more surprise, and it's another one of these. I don't know how these lasted until Cyber Monday, but they did. I thought this would be like the second item to the Wera stuff that would have been gone, and it was available, and I waited really late and they were still available, and I thought, I got to do it, I got to pull the trigger. This one's going to work, and then I think I've got my nephew like a kind of a cheap socket set, and this is going to be his good ratchet to go with the cheap sockets. Couldn't pass it up. It's like it's a killer deal. So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that's what we did. I don't know for the life of me how this lasted. If you passed up on that, you are missing out in my opinion. But won't ramble on too much. I'll have links down below, again, solely for your convenience. Timestamps, as always in my videos, are there, so you can skip around, jump around. If you're only interested in this, if you saw these and you're like, I gotta know more, that's why the timestamps are there. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us again, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. I've worked up an appetite. I've lost my voice. I'm going to get inside, heat up my supper from last night, and maybe get this video edited so I can come out here and crank out another one, trying to play catch up and get my hand back functional. So KC Tool, they did a fantastic Black Friday haul. Again, a lot of this stuff for me was repeat buys. $12 for the Felo Ergonics, can't pass that up. Stupid cheap, you'll probably never see a $73 Hazet 8816 HPS again. The Fantastico and this guy for $30 combined, and I think that's going to be my nephew's pliers. Couldn't say no to that. $120 for this, a little bit pricey, our most expensive item. Appreciate it more in person, and it'll finally give me a chance to test it out. And then of course right here, love these things so far. We're going to get a ton of use out of the pair we've been using, and then this one, I liked them well enough, it's going to work. So that's how things stand. Don't forget the lanyard, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have yourself a fantastic weekend. We're closing in on Christmas. In fact, if my math is correct, this video is the 18th. That means next Saturday is the 25th. Got another special video for you for Saturday the 25th. I hope you are all geared up for Christmas. Hope you have a fantastic time. And with that said, I got to go before this thing cuts me off. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you back here for more from the shop.